So I just wanted to talk about the Green Party and Howie Hawkins, who is now I think the selection for the presidential nominee for the U.S. Green Party. I was watching Primo Nutmeg, which is is a pretty good YouTube channel, and they had Jimmy Dore on. He mentioned how Howie Hawkins would be the end of the Green Party. And when I watched why that was, I saw that Howie Hawkins was promoting Russiagate, which is just complete nonsense. And it's been proven to be nonsense, even if the Democratic Party still holds on to it, even if the mainstream media still tries to resurrect it. It's been proven to be nonsense.
So, the media is, they're following this Russiagate thing, which I think is serious. I think Trump ought to be impeached. I think it's obvious he saw collusion. He did collude, him and his son and his son-in-law. And, it's all over that first volume of the Mueller report. It's all over there. I mean, when people say, oh, it showed no collusion. No, it didn't. It says, Mueller says right away, I didn't talk about collusion. I talked about narrow legal definition of conspiracy. Plus, I can't indict the president, according to this OLC letter in the Justice Department. He just laid out the evidence for prosecutors, which has to be Congress.
So Howie Hawkins pushing Russiagate as a Green Party person, the guy is intellectually impaired.
Trump has done a lot of things, but a Manchurian candidate and an asset of Russia is not one of them. He's problematic to the nth degree, but being a Russian asset is not something that he is. But anyway, so Howie Hawkins, the presidential nominee for the Green Party, the U.S. Green Party, is promoting this nonsense about Trump, which is just basically, just a Democratic Party sort of a thing to deflect from Hillary Clinton and the mess that she made in her campaign in 2016. How she, the Podesta emails were released by WikiLeaks, and it was shown that that her campaign was trying to elevate Trump because they thought that they could beat him. So they were trying to actually elevate him. That's the Pied Piper strategy they talked about in the Podesta emails. And also there was other things that came out in that to do with Hillary Clinton's corruption. And so she sort of lost because of her own corruption and stupidity, and then she tried to blame it on Russia, and she's still blaming it on Russia. In fact, Hillary Clinton has actually been she's been pretty much implying Tulsi Gabbard as a Russian asset. I mean, she basically said that in an interview with somebody. So, she's sort of disgusting, really, the lengths that she go to, and rather than just own it, that she's just not a good candidate and that she's a warmonger and a corporate-loving politician, she would rather drag people through the mud and smear them. I'm no fan of Tulsi Gabbard, but I mean, smearing anybody and calling them a Russian asset is sort of disgusting. But anyway, this Howie Hawkins is basically complicit in this smearing by going on about Russiagate as if it's real, as if there's something in it. And by the way, Hillary Clinton also called Dr. Jill Stein, who was the 2016 Greens presidential candidate, she called her a Russian asset as well. So that's the sort of level of smearing that, the Democratic Party is into. Against their own members too, what Tulsi Gabbard actually belongs to the Democratic Party. They don't want anybody who's remotely progressive. Tulsi Gabbard has problems, and I'm not going to go into them here. I've done a couple of videos about it. Bernie Sanders has problems. He's an imperialist, but his economic policy, his domestic policy is very, very good. At least Jill Stein, when she was the presidential nominee, the only problem I had with Jill Stein, she was really good on U.S. imperialism, being anti-war, being supporting Palestinians and all of that. She was really good on all of that, and she did these weekly fireside chats. I haven't even known what's been going on with the Green Party since in this last year or so. I mean, I haven't seen any sort of, like Jill Stein was actually doing weekly fireside chats, and she was sort of talking about issues. I'm not sure what Howie Hawkins is doing apart from promoting a debunked sort of smeary Russiagate, and also he's talking about he's promoting CIA talking points about Syria. this will be the end of the the Green Party, the U.S. Green Party, if they allow people like that, who are just really, what's the difference between him and some of those Democratic nominees, really? The problem I had with Jill Stein was that she and her party seemed to just ignore information about the sovereign economy that would have been very, very important for her to know. And in other words, she was ignoring MMT, which is simply a description of the operational reality of a sovereign economy. And she kept putting out this idea that she was going to fund Medicare with federal taxes and all that kind of thing. Well, I'm going to point you in the direction of a Counterpunch article, which is titled "Taxpayers' Money," in quotes, "Threatens Medicare for All and Every Other Social Program." Now, there's a lot of economically illiterate stuff about, this whole federal taxes fund spending, or that you need to tax the rich so you can have X, Y, Z social programs, or you need to tax the rich so that you can have Medicare for all, and all this kind of stuff. That's actually economically illiterate nonsense. It's neoliberal nonsense, and of course it's important to tax the rich, but not for the reasons we think they are. And this is why it's so important. This is why it was so disappointing that Jill Stein ignored the real progressives when they interviewed her, and I think they presented it. They also interviewed Ajama Baraka, and they talked about MMT, the sovereign economy, and federal taxes not funding spending, and all of those important things that we need to know. But they just didn't take it up at the time. I love Ajama Baraka, but I don't think that he took it up. I'm not sure, but it seems like he didn't. Anyway, but there's three assertions. There's three assertions in this Counterpunch article, and I just want to quickly read them so that you can get an idea of what MMT is and why it's such a dangerous notion to promote that federal taxes fund things like Medicare for all. So three assertions. There is no such thing as quote-unquote taxpayer money. The next assertion, taxes do not pay for government spending, nor does debt. No revenue is needed. And then leftists who continue to talk as if taxpayer dollars, in quotes, must be collected to, quote, pay for, end quote, government programs are undermining Medicare for all and every other progressive policy initiative. So that's from that article, and I invite you to look at the hashtag LearnMMT, that's LearnMMT. It's really important that we understand how a sovereign economy works, because otherwise we're going to put out economically illiterate things, and then there's going to be a whole lot of people saying, I don't want to fund this program for that group. I don't like that group. I don't want to fund this program with my taxpayer dollars. I don't want to help asylum seekers. I don't want to help with my taxpayer dollars. You see how that can be really toxic, sort of with that notion that federal taxpayer dollars fund different things? Then people can say things like that. But when you actually realize in a sovereign economy that isn't how it goes, that isn't how it works, well, your taxpayer dollars aren't funding any of these programs. They're not even funding the wars. A sovereign economy is a currency issuer, and it funds those wars. It funds good things, and it funds wars. It's just how the sovereign economy is utilized, except that they don't fund the things that for the public purpose. These oligarchs, they're only interested in their own pockets, and they're only interested in corporations that they're going to get money from, lobbyist money or a job after they leave Congress or whatever, I don't know. They're only interested in their own lives, their own sort of careers, and so they'll fund war, and there'll always be infinite money for war. Have you noticed that? Then you never ever hear anybody say, we don't have enough money for that to go into, and invade this country or that country. You'll never ever hear them saying that, and that's because it's a sovereign economy and they can afford that. And the other thing is but you will hear them say, how are you going to pay for it? How often do you hear when it comes to social programs? When it comes to social programs, you'll hear people, neoliberals and neoconservatives, saying, how are you going to pay for that? They ask Bernie Sanders that. Now, Bernie Sanders knows that the sovereign economy can afford Medicare for all. Sadly, Bernie Sanders is still putting out economically illiterate stuff that taxes pay for those things. And I wish that before, when this new election cycle started, I'm talking about right after the last election, I wish Bernie Sanders and people like that had actually started talking frankly about the sovereign economy and that federal taxes don't fund spending, and start to educate the public about how the sovereign economy functions, so that they don't keep putting out this economically illiterate stuff to people, because that's what people are used to. You know, people are used to hearing that federal taxes fund spending, right? And so Bernie Sanders is just playing into that because he thinks it's easier to do that rather than, having to explain. I disagree. Because it's, if he just explained to people how a sovereign economy functions, his economic advisor is Stephanie Kelton, and you can look her up on Twitter. If he just explained that and got Stephanie Kelton to give some talks on his Twitter feed or something, like post some videos on YouTube on his channel and educate the public, he wouldn't have to keep on putting out this nonsense that federal taxes fund spending. So anyway, I invite you to look at that taxpayer money, in quotes, threatens Medicare for all and every other social program. And also check out the hashtag LearnMMT. Now, I've gotten sidetracked because I was talking about Jill Stein and how they ignored the issue of the sovereign economy, and they keep putting out this nonsense, economically illiterate nonsense, that federal taxes fund this and that. And it's not an either or either, So it's sad that the Green Party now, not only have they ignored MMT, and there's people like Bernie Sanders, he may still be putting out unfortunate things about federal taxes, but he does understand how the sovereign economy works via Stephanie Kelton. So he knows that he can pay for Medicare for all, and he means it, right? But Jill Stein has just ignored all of that. And now we have Howie Hawkins. Well, I say we, I'm not a member of that party. I'm not even in the same country. But when Howie Hawkins, as not only is he ignorant about MMT, but he's also a Russiagater. He's also promoting CIA talking points about Syria. So this is sort of spelling the end, really, for the Green Party. I don't know anybody. There were so many people on board with Jill Stein when she talked about anti-imperialism and all that sort of stuff. She's really good at it. And now, what is he doing? So this is really a disaster for that party, and I'm just really, really disappointed. Really disappointed. I was thinking, who on earth chose him as the nominee for the U.S. Greens? Seriously, who chose him? Is this an intent? Is he trying to destroy the party? I mean, is he, like Jimmy Dore said, is he a mole? Is he trying to destroy the Green Party? Because, this is the way to do it. Anyway, that's really all I wanted to say. I just wanted to say how, you've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous, like Jill Stein, who's great on so many issues except for the sovereign economy thing, which is very important, by the way. But this is now like Howie Hawkins is probably hopeless on the sovereign economy, and he's promoting propaganda. What else is he going to do? So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. So please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Please click the notifications bell, otherwise you won't receive any notifications when I drop a video. Please leave comments. I always enjoy your comments. So thanks so much for watching. My name's Trish Roberts. You're watching Faint Signals from Vega. Till next time. Bye for now.